think I have a burp coming, but I'll fight through it. Okay.
Push it out. Okay.
It's because you have the rum and milk mix.
Seriously, dude. Hang on a second. I think I'm going to shit my pants real fast. Hang on.
I texted my wife in the other room to say, "Hey, one of the guys here is drinking rum with raw milk here," and she wrote, "Raw milk, dude, is so West Coast."
Welcome to Predator Minute, the podcast that breaks down the 1987 action sci-fi classic Predator 1 minute at a time. I'm John Zabriskie.
And I am Jeff Glover.
And joining us again this week, we're so excited to have him back, Eric Deutsch.
Hello!
Yes.
From the Flash Gordon Minute and the Escape from New York Minute. And Jeff and I actually guested on Escape from New York Minute a long time ago.
Yes.
We did. We got to talk about the Duke.
The Duke!
That's the Duke. I know the sound of his engines. Don't cross the Duke. Everybody knows that.
That was fun. That was good times. And the chandeliers. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Eric.
like one of the greatest cars in movie history.
Yes. What an entrance, too. I can't wait till Eric covers Escape from LA because I am ready to talk about that movie.
Well, as we record this, I can't make an announcement. Nah, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm not doing Escape from LA Minute. I never would.
That's the announcement.
That's the announcement.
I love
There
it.
you go. I never would, but something else might occur incredibly soon.
Okay. You can tell us off the recording.
Yeah.
Now, John, you bought a car recently. Have you purchased the accompanying chandeliers for your car? That's the next step.
I have not, but we have like the next best thing, which is a rooftop tent which attaches to your roof rack and extends out, pops up into a tent that your whole family can sleep in, as opposed to sleeping on the measly old ground, Jeff.
What?
Well,
Yes.
that's pretty cool, but you need to get a chandelier inside of it, and then you'll be done.
Yeah, I think putting the chandelier would be the finishing touch, and Sarah, I think, would be all for putting some kind of awesome light decoration inside.
Eric, have you ever seen the rooftop tent?
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, they're really cool. Yeah.
So it goes on top of your car?
It goes on top of the car. I'll have to send you a picture over the old messenger, but yeah, we've done it a few times now. Back in July when we were doing tons of camping, that was the MO, the modus operandi, was to pull up. You just unfold it in a matter of minutes, put the little poles in that hold up the windows and the rain fly, and you are good to go. It has a little cushion inside, a lot of space, and it just folds back up into like this neat little container on top of the car.
I have so many questions right now. I could derail this entire episode with the questions I have.
So another buddy of mine got a rooftop tent for his Honda Element. Just Google, Eric, if you want to see pictures, you can Google like a common brand is Roof Nest.
Roof Nest.
Yeah, Roof Nest is one. But they're all kind of the same. They like fold up, fold down, basically into like a hard top container. And you just crank them up and crank them down, and there's like a little ladder, and you can climb up there, and just there you go. It sleeps like two people pretty comfortably, or two people and a small child.
Yeah, we've done two people into two children.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Squeeze on.
It's kind of cozy, but yeah, it's really neat how it just all is such a nice little compact system. It all just unfolds out, folds back in, and the ladder supports the other half, hopefully, of the load of the tent when it's open.
So welcome, everybody, to Rooftop Tent Minute. I'm your host. John, what minute are we actually covering this week?
Hey, thanks, co-host, for redirecting. We're talking minute 93. We're going to go off directing now. So minute 93, you could call the John Hall of Famer Randall of minutes, the Dwight Freeney of minutes, as well as the first of three consecutive semi-primes. Do you know what a semi-prime is, Jeff?
Oh boy, put me on the spot.
You're doing right, mathematician.
I know. I think a semi-prime is a number that's the product of two primes.
You're correct, like 91.
Thank God. Thank God.
Thank God.
Didn't embarrass myself. 93 is the product of 2 primes, huh? And it's also part of 3 consecutive semi-primes?
You nailed it.
Cool. All right. Nice.
Yeah. So welcome to 93. So what do you notice in the list of 93s? I feel like we ramped up a little bit from last minute.
Yeah, you listed a few things here. You got some music, some games, and some movies, which is pretty great. In the music list, I couldn't help to notice the song that one song by 4 Non-Blondes was on there.
I said, hey, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Oh, wake up in the morning and step outside and I take a deep breath.
I had that cassette.
Real high. Yep, that one.
What's going on?
Get away now.
That is a great campfire song. Like,
yeah,
Sarah will play the guitar and we'll all sing the song. It's so great.
Wow, great.
Yeah,
very nice. Yeah,
but it's another year where a movie was directly tied to a hit song, the UB40, or what did I say it was? UB40, or it doesn't even matter.
It's UB40.
It's UB40. Covered the Elvis, although who knows if it's Elvis' original song, but the I Can't Help Falling in Love with You track that was which was matched up with the movie Sliver.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, we've talked about Sliver before.
I don't know why did we talk about Sliver before? We did. I know we did.
We did. We did.
Was it?
I can't remember why. I cannot remember why, but we talked at length about Sliver like many, many episodes ago.
Right.
And I even when I boosted it on Twitter, I was like, this episode is slightly better than the 1993 erotic thriller Sliver.
Oh, well, it's one of the Baldwins. It's William Baldwin and then Sharon Stone, who had previous year been in Basic Instinct.
Right. So
but
she was on the top of her game.
Ayo.
Ayo.
But I remember specifically the music video for this having footage from Sliver intercut with the band singing against, I don't know, a white background. It was if you watch it now, it's very puzzling.
This phenomenon was so prolific in the 90s, I'm realizing as we do these episodes. Eric, can you think of any movie music MTV tie-ins like that?
Oh, crap.
No, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just having a conversation.
You do.
I didn't know if there's one we forgot, but this happened all the time in the 90s. Yeah. It was like the height of MTV, you know?
Yeah, exactly. The height of MTV. It's like the blockbusters in full swing. And speaking of blockbusters, talking about movies, we're talking about one of the biggest movies ever to come around. It changed the game. That's right. I'm talking about Mr. Nanny with Hulk Hogan. Sorry. No. That was bad.
I was about to interrupt you and say cliffhanger, right? Cliffhanger.
Wayne's World 2. No, I'm talking about, of course, Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Right. One of the biggest game changers, talking about special effects married with practical effects in a movie, as well as Spielberg being at the top of his visual storytelling game and John Williams at the top of his score composing game.
I feel like everybody remembers when they first saw Jurassic Park. Do you guys remember the very first time?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously I saw it in the theaters like everybody else, and I knew, I was a typical boy. I loved dinosaurs growing up, so
yeah.
I was definitely very excited for the movie, and I remember it lived up to my expectations. I definitely did not walk out and say, well, yeah, I don't know, I was expecting more. It certainly hit all the points, and I absolutely loved it.
I can brag that I did actually read the book before I saw the movie.
What?
I know. I read the book in 7th grade, I think, because this movie came out in 90. Yeah, so that checks out. So, Yeah, I read the book, and when I heard a movie was coming, I got super, super excited because I loved the book. And I went and did the whole experience. Like we went in the first week that it was open. We stood in line in true blockbuster fashion. You know, you couldn't buy tickets online. You had to like wait in a massive line at the theater and hope that you got a ticket, you know. And all four of us in my family went and we waited in that big fucking line and we got our ticket and sat in a sold out, packed, crowded theater. And it's not very often that a movie that gets that much hype like lives up to the expectations, and Jurassic Park is one that just blew them out of the water, right? Like you can still watch it today almost 30 years later and it still holds up as just a fantastic film.
It is still so good. I think it was the first movie I saw multiple times in the theater. I remember seeing it at least 2 times, maybe 3 times, which was like, when you're a kid, like you don't have that kind of like adult like freedom, right? Like to see a movie multiple times, if even at all, in the theater. I remember being just so blown away, just loving every minute of it.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. Almost as good as another movie that came out in 1993.
That's right. We're talking about
Army of Darkness.
Right. Army of Darkness.
The greatest movie that came out in 1993.
Another sequel.
My Flash Gordon Minute co-host, Brad, co-hosted Army of Darkness Minute.
Oh, there you go. I should check that one out. That's one of my faves. Yeah. It's. Have you ever seen Army of Darkness, John?
I've just seen bits and pieces.
Okay.
It's on the list because those Sam Raimi early movies are just something to behold.
That's one I think you would enjoy. Like, because Evil Dead 2 is also a horror comedy, but there's a lot of actual horror in it.
Right.
Army of Darkness is really a comedy. Like, it's very much a comedy. And it's funny and very tongue-in-cheek and campy in the best way. So, you might actually really enjoy Army of Darkness.
I would say 1993 gave us a couple part 3s. There's one specifically that was like one of the bigger letdowns for me, and that was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. I remember being so let down when seeing that in the theaters. Like, it was just traumatic. I still will bring that up with brother of the show, former co-host Aaron, will just kind of like try to shake it out of our heads because it was just such a huge disappointment. The Turtles go back in time into samurai times, and the movie is so bad. It's so boring. I just remember being so let down. But hey, that summer, bounces out with Jurassic Park, Last Action Hero, by the way, another movie directed by John McTiernan and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Gave us Groundhog Day. I know some people like Sandlot. Super Mario Bros. Maybe goes the other way. Men in Tights, though, it's like the right way to go with a parody.
One of the greatest lines by Dave Chappelle in any role that he ever had. Dave Chappelle was in Robin Hood Men in Tights, and they come up to a creek, and they have to cross this creek, and everyone in the group is like afraid to cross it, and Dave Chappelle walks up and he just jumps over it. And he goes, "Come on, guys, it ain't exactly the Mississippi. First you're on one side, then you're on the other." He just jumps back and forth. And like in true Dave Chappelle fashion, like he takes a simple line reading and makes it absolutely hilarious. I love him in that movie.
Oh, excuse me. Hey, look, man, you don't have to do this. Look, this ain't exactly the Mississippi. I'm on one side, see? I'm on the other side. I'm on the East Bank. I'm on the West Bank. It is not that critical.
One of probably my favorite line from that movie is when they're doing the training montage and they're about to charge the dummies, and the guy's like, "Wait for it." In my mind, it was just such a perfect, like, just absurd moment. Like, wait for what? Like, you're just charging a bunch of dummies. there's no letting down of the guard or anything that's about to happen. It's done. It's ready to go.
That's great. Well, we need to move on soon, but I have to mention that you put on your list here, Jason Goes to Hell. One of the strangest entries in the Friday the 13th franchise. That's otherwise known as Jason number 9. It's a really weird one because it's one where like Jason really isn't in the movie. It's like his spirit travels from person to person and infects them and turns them into a killer. It's really strange. Yeah. So anyway, I had to mention that one.
Is he ever on fire in that movie?
Yeah, he's on fire, and in the first 5 minutes, they set fire to him and blow him up.
He's on fire.
Yeah, he's on fire.
Is Aaron Gray in that one?
Ooh.
Am I remembering that wrong? I saw that movie once, 20 years ago, and I have this memory of Aaron Gray being like his sister or something like that. Or am I mixing something up?
Aaron Gray.
And that Jeff is frantically typing this in. Yep.
I am.
Jason Goes to Hell. It's the final Friday.
Yeah.
Aaron Gray is
certainly not the final one. Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6. She's like 7th build. She's after Kane Hodder, who must be playing the titular Jason.
He is, yeah. Fun fact: Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, did not have Friday the 13th in the title because Paramount Pictures still owned the rights to that name. And the final Friday Jason Goes to Hell was actually produced by a different company. Yeah, so they couldn't use the name. But
we
they were,
know who that was about.
Yeah, but they were somehow allowed to use the likeness and the name Jason. I don't know how it all worked out.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyhow. Are we talking Predator?
We are. Oh, and by the way, NBA Jam came out in arcades that year. That's why I mentioned He's on Fire.
Hell yeah, it did.
Boom shakalaka.
Yes.
Shakalaka.
He's heating up. So speaking of heating up, minute 93 of Predator opens with Dutch looking at some Predator blood, and it ends with some Predator blood dripping on the rocks behind a thinking Dutch.
We're going to break this minute into 2 parts. The first part is a whopping 50 seconds of the minute. It's a whopper. We carry over from last minute. We have a muddy Dutch, and he has spied some Predator blood, the secret of the ooze, on some nearby rocks, and begins walking down a small ravine as he tracks that neon green blood. Dutch says, "Bleed, bastard." After walking a few paces towards the camera while tracking the blood, Dutch stops to peer into a closed-in section of the ravine. There are more blood drops in the closed-in section. Dutch proceeds, spear in hand, into this closed section, squinting and walking on his hands and knees. He pauses. End of minute. End of first section. So a lot of tracking shots here, or the kind of handheld camera shots, just following Dutch as he moves along. More kind of cool sort of hunter shots here of our buddy Dutch.
Our buddy, the Muddy Dutch. So, Eric, what stands out to you here in this first gigantic part?
The thing that stood out to me is that in these 2 minutes that I came back for, I'd have no chance to add any more drops for you guys after my triumphant debut of my Arnold impression, because he doesn't talk at all. That kind of sucks.
You could say "bleed, bastard."
You know what's funny is I watched this clip 3 times to prepare for this, and I never even noticed he said "bleed, bastard."
Bleed, bastard.
Yeah,
I swear I thought that this was a completely dialogueless minute.
It's very close, but we have 2 lines here. This is, by the way, I'm glad you mentioned that, Eric, because I think a long time ago we had talked about which has more dialogue-free minutes, this or Escape from New York. And I haven't done the official count yet, but of the last, up till 78 till 92. So that's 15 minutes. 14 of those 15 previous minutes have been dialogue free.
Wow. No, that you blow us out of the water, because I think we ended up, there were only like maybe 3 or 4 actual self-contained minutes that had no dialogue. I remember keeping track of that. Like there,
right.
like there might have been if you just did it as not doing it 1 minute at a time. There might be like the end the last 30 seconds of 1 minute to the first 30 seconds of the next minute.
Right.
But we only had a few actual complete contained minutes where there was no dialogue. So you guys totally beat us there.
Well, I think that really tells to like the visual nature of this film, because when I think of Escape from New York, I do not think of a dialogue heavy movie, and like this is like really not a dialogue heavy movie, especially in this third act where it's just Arnold stumbling around trying to avoid death.
Which is really amazing that this movie is so well known for some of its lines. I mean, there are so many classic lines from this movie, and yet you're right. There's a lot of non-talking in this movie.
Yeah.
They really did a good job of making every word of every dialogue kind of count, right? And yeah, maybe that is what makes Arnold's, his line delivery is just classic, but it probably is what makes these lines stand out, is there's not a lot of other lines to, cloud it up, so they really kind of stand out when he talks, when he says these classic lines.
Yeah, and I like his line here because it gives us a rare glimpse into Dutch as kind of having some human connection. I would argue, like thinking to his fallen comrades and like how bad he wants the Predator here to die. He is just right. He's clearly in it to kill the Predator here, and he wants this Predator to bleed, bastard.
Bleed bastard.
Bleed bastard.
Yeah, it's a rare little moment of, some inner thoughts, inner monologue he might be having.
This is once again some cool kind of guerrilla camera work here. Most of the shots are handheld, you can tell. In the beginning, we're following Dutch from behind, and then we kind of get a POV shot, and we see all the green blood. And then once again, we get that really cool camera work where it's handheld, but we're facing Dutch and moving backwards with him as he walks forward through this little kind of ravine or path that he's on. And I just love the way he's sort of crouched, but sort of leaning into and almost over the camera, very imposing. It's just a really effective way to kind of show the stress and the intensity of the moment.
And the song playing really helps too. This is a really cool song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little mixture. We heard this song, this na 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 na. We heard this when really anytime Dylan talked about the Predator. Dylan! Thank you. And not knowing like what they're up against. We heard that all throughout the movie, and then we heard it a great deal when Dylan was disarmed. The track was called Dylan is Disarmed. Mixed with some good pounding horns, those brum, 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 to really ramp up that tension as Dutch is on the track, trying to find the Predator. It's like he's hunting. Yes, the Predator's bleeding, but the music's telling us like this is far from over.
So now our boy Dutch finds this little like cavern. Would you guys walk into this little cavern like he does?
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because last minute I made the point that I thought Predator made an amateur mistake and revealed his position too easily.
Mm-hmm.
And I think here Arnold's doing the same exact thing. It's like, really? You're going into this cave? Are you kidding me, dude? The Predator's got to be in there waiting for you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're lucky if the Predator is just like waiting up ahead. It'd be terrible if he caught you from behind, like in some kind of pincher movement. That'd be terrible. But something I wanted to ask before we move on here is, as he is walking towards the camera, let's say second 13 to 14, he's walking towards the camera, and you can see fire in the background. I don't take that fire to be the torch he threw a few minutes ago from the log. I guess in the continuity of this movie, I'm thinking that fire is from the Predator firing his laser at Dutch when he kind of gopher popped his head up behind the rocks. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's hard to know. The geography here gets a little convoluted since we're at night and where it's just kind of dusky and dark out still. So it's really hard to know. it feels like in terms of like movie magic that they kind of set that back there to give the ambient light, around the shot. But yeah, I think you're right, John. I think that's probably the most recent explosion and a fire that has been caused by it from the Predator's attacks.
Okay, attack. So, Eric, what about you? Do you think this is from the laser blast just a minute ago, or is that supposed to be where he threw the big torch off the log?
I think it's the torch, because it seems to me that the laser blast, it just kind of just created sparks, right? I mean, we didn't see any fire in the last minute,
that's a
right?
Good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe that is the big bonfire going on.
That's the only continued fire we've seen from a lot of things, like when he threw the spear, when he fired the explosive bow and arrow, when the Predator fired all those lasers in the trees. It's like there's no like continued fire. So it's interesting if that's supposed to be it. And this last act is really, really like confined to a small area. I'm tempted to draw this out sometime in the coming week, try to like map out where all this is supposed to be, because hopefully, according to Dutch's plan, he will maybe lure the Predator back to that trap he made taking care of business quite a bit ago.
I like as Dutch starts to crawl into this cave like a crazy person.
Yes.
That his body kind of blends into the rocks, and we just sort of have his white eyes, like sort of floating in to this cavern. And then the rest of his body kind of comes into the light a little bit. But I think that's a pretty cool shot. Yeah, and we start to see a lot more Predator Secret of the Ooze blood in here, and the shot ends with that ominous drip of blood right behind his head as we rack focus onto it. What do you guys think that drip of blood is indicating to us?
Gosh, I don't know. I just love the way it's revealed. It's just such a. You mentioned the rack focus. It's a great rack focus, and
yeah,
it's great watching that blood drip. It's just such a great movie moment.
It is great, and also the music cues right to Jeff's favorite part, which is the drums, please. As soon as that blood starts to dribble in the background. Did we mention what the blood is made of? Have we mentioned that in a while?
Like the actual movie magic substance?
Yes. Have we mentioned that? It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a long time since we mentioned that. Yeah, you should remind our listeners. How did they make that Secret of the Ooze blood?
The Secret of the Ooze in this movie was made on set using a mixture of the liquid from inside glow sticks and KY jelly.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Someone's job in this movie is to dribble glowing KY jelly behind Arnold and onto rocks.
Someone's job was to go either into an adult shop or order from an adult catalog, because there was no internet, tubs upon tubs of KY jelly.
I think the story was in Mexico, they had a production assistant just go to the market to buy specifically the glow sticks, and they found there was no orange glow sticks. It's either that story, or it's the story of trying to keep the color palette in this movie mainly green and red. I don't know what would look more otherworldly. I think orange would just be kind of like maybe a little bit too goofy. I think there's something about the green that's still organic and like has a basis in some kind of life form.
I don't know about you guys, but my KY jelly tends to glow blue.
You might want to have that checked out.
It's more like a lightsaber situation in my bedroom.
Oh, like in that John Ritter movie.
Yeah, find a transition there, John.
Yeah. Speaking of John Ritter, no, I really enjoy the face that Dutch makes when he pauses. He makes his way into the ravine, and then he does have another pause moment. He paused before he goes in the ravine, and once he's paused here before it rack focuses. He's looking all around. He's kind of looking down, looking to the side, and you can tell he's just thinking. He's thinking. I had to think that he's partially thinking, I'm sure the predator knows what he's doing with these blood drops now. I'm sure the predator has some kind of little trap he's trying to set me up with. And also the anchor man, I immediately regret this decision.
Yes.
I immediately regret this decision.
One of the great Will Ferrell lines of all time. This is a immediately regret this decision moment here. And punctuated by that rack focus onto the dripping blood behind him that I'm sure we'll learn more about next minute. Yeah,
it's very very Jurassic Park, appropriately for '93, and that Muldoon is tricked by the raptors in that movie, where he sees one, he's taking aim on one, and that whole thing where the raptor was out in the distance for him to aim at was a ruse for the other raptor to come attack him from the side, where he says, "Clever girl," and then
Clever girl.
Yeah.
Taken from us too soon.
All right. So the showdown continues. We're really ramping up here. As we mentioned last minute, the cat and mouse keeps on going. You know, Dutch got a piece of the predator last time, as we see with the blood. And I have a feeling that the predator is going to counterattack here as he is stuck in this ravine.
That's a good prediction.
Yeah. All right. So do we have anything else for this last 10-second section of the minute?
I had one thing from the first section that I wanted to mention. You talked about the cool shot where we just see his eyes basically after he comes into the cave, and there are two references that immediately made me think of. One,
I wonder if I know
one of them. I'm saving the best of last for the two. The first one is from an X-Files episode where they go to Florida, and it turns out descendants of Ponce de Leon are still alive hundreds of years later and learn to like camouflage in the jungle. And at one point they show like the ground, these eyes open up in the mud of one of the camouflage people living in the mud. It's a really cool effect. But the one that is much more exciting to me, though, is when I was a kid, my dad took me to see First Blood Part 2 in the movie theater.
Yes.
And there is a scene where one of the bad guys is walking by, and all of a sudden, Sylvester Stallone's eyes open up inside like a mountain covered in mud, and he just emerges from the mud and kills the guy. And like, I don't know what year that came out. Let's say I was maybe 8 or 9. Like 9-year-old me, that was like the most awesome thing I'd ever seen in a movie theater in my entire life.
I'm pretty sure that came out before this, and Jeff and I talked about that maybe being an inspiration. Did you say First Blood Part 2?
First Blood Part 2.
Okay. Yeah, that is 85, and so I think that is a direct inspiration to the script and to his appearance too. But the reference I was thinking of, besides it just kind of like mirroring the team seeing the predator for the first time and seeing the glowing eyes versus like the camouflaged body, was True Lies, where Arnold is like watching Jamie Lee Curtis and like he's all in shadow except for his eyes.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He's like, do it slowly.
Slowly. That's the awkward part. You don't watch with your family. Right?
Yeah, and yet Sarah and I did watch that with my family. She says that's so awkward. So bad.
John, you can cut this out. I think I'm realizing I forgot to do the description for the second part of the minute.
Oh no, I think you just kind of naturally took that in.
Okay. All right, if you're fine with that, then that works. Okay.
I am fine with that because I don't want to go back and edit that in.
Right. Okay. You can just cut this part out. All right.
Sure. And this part.
Yeah.
And this part too.
And this part. Oh no.
This part. Oh jeez.
Oh, so good. I'll go back to the script. It's been a while since I talked about the script.
It's been a while.
And we have hit upon that one so many times, but it has been a while. In the script, where we're talking about a much different movie in the third act, Dutch at this point is making his way through a similar narrow passageway into a larger cavern. But as he's doing so, like trying to be really quiet, still covered in mud, he's knocking over logs that spill termites all over him. At one point, he awakens a whole colony of bats that are flying around him and bringing the predator to the same cave setting. It's pretty Nordberg-esque kind of escapade that's just going through in this script. I don't need to say too much about the difference here in the movie, but I think it's much better just making it Dutch versus the Predator. It just streamlines things. It makes it, like Jeff, you were saying a couple minutes ago, makes you really focus on this and not on like any other external diversions where you're not feeling as threatened by the Predator.
Yeah, that's funny. I just every minute now that we discuss, I'm waiting to hear like what natural element of the jungle is going to attack Dutch next. Like, this time, or at least in the original script, like this time it was bats. Okay.
Last time it was a jaguar.
Yeah, jaguar last time. Before that, they were falling into some vines. You know,
It's a bad poison ivy rash.
Right. Who needs the Predator when you got, Montezuma's Revenge or whatever?
Oh, no. Which, of course, famously, a lot of the cast and crew had from this shoot. On the shoot, it was a very active case of Montezuma's Revenge causing avengement among everybody who was there in Mexico.
Side note, I had a friend that went and worked in Guatemala and Central America as part of the Peace Corps for quite a long time. And she said it was just a running joke. Like anybody new that came to join the group, it was just a countdown to find out how long it would take them before they shit their pants.
Oh.
And it happened to everybody at some point. Right. But it's just a thing you had to get through.
Did you ever visit them?
I did not, but I did visit Honduras.
Right.
And I did shit my pants. So the rumors are true.
Oh, man. Eric, have you ever been to Central or South America?
No, actually I have not.
Okay.
Well, lucky you.
Yes,
you're
clearly.
Cancered clean.
Clearly. Which one of you? I know one of you earlier in the season told that hysterical story where you embarrassed your wife about the barfing on the bus. That was that was a hysterical story. I love that story.
She was really excited that I told that story.
I bet she was.
I'm sure we all have good embarrassing travel stories, but we'll leave it with Jeff being the most embarrassed for now. Thank you, Jeff.
I'll proudly hold that crown. Sure. All right. Did we do it, gentlemen?
I think we did it. Unless, Eric, you have anything else for minute 93?
No.
Okay. So, well, now's the part of the show where we recommend things to our listeners. And I say things with a broad stroke of the brush, so it could be a lot of different things. So, Eric, you being our esteemed guest, why don't you recommend something first?
Okay, I will recommend another podcast.
There you go.
Yeah, it's called Ear Hustle, and it's very interesting. It's hosted by someone who's in prison, and a woman who is some kind of activist, and they take you what life is like inside prison. And so each episode is a different aspect of prison life.
Oh, wow.
And it's very, very interesting. They cover, I've been listening to it a bunch, and they cover all different aspects of it. The food and gangs and conjugal visits and death row. And it's very, very interesting. And it's called Ear Hustle because in prison, the lingo is when you kind of gossip or eavesdrop on something that's called ear hustle.
Whoa.
Nice. Okay.
Man.
I have to add that to the list.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric. Ear Hustle. Okay. What drew you to Ear Hustle, Eric? I have to ask.
I happened to see an article about it on some website last year, and I'm always looking out for new and interesting podcasts to listen to. Especially since usually I just listen to stuff about movies and TV, so try to listen to something that's a little more, intellectual sometimes.
Right.
And so it seems interesting. I gave it a shot, and I really liked it. So I've stuck with it.
Cool. They're working that ear hustle. I like it. All right. So how about you, Jeff? What do you have to recommend to the listeners?
I'm going to get a little meta in my recommends. I'm also going to recommend a podcast, but I'm going to recommend a specific episode of a specific podcast. A couple episodes ago, we had on the awesome dudes from the Comics in Motion podcast.
Yes.
Who also have a side podcast called VHS Strikes Back.
Yes.
Which began as a podcast where they would discuss and talk about kind of famous and mainstream movies from their childhood, but quickly devolved into them choosing the worst movies they could possibly find to make each other watch, which is a great concept. And they just released, just a day or two ago, they released an episode on one of my most favorite bad movies of all time, which is Samurai Cop.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a double recommend. If you have never seen Samurai Cop, please go watch Samurai Cop. Then you should listen to Dave and Chris's episode where they discuss Samurai Cop. Samurai Cop is one of the best bad movies you'll ever see, and their podcast on it is equally hilarious. So
it is, yeah.
So just check it out. Check out both things. I promise you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, that is the VHS Strikes Back podcast. I myself have been listening to their podcast whenever I'm listening to podcasts for the last few days. And yes, the Samurai Cop episode was it has to be up there for me in podcast listening in terms of episodes. Just they're just enjoying the movie and ribbing each other so much. And it's an extra long episode compared to some of their normal episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It is really a delight to listen to, and I immediately wanted to watch this movie. I haven't watched it yet, but they say it's on YouTube, so I'll have to check that out for all its badness and its goodness.
You can also find at some point Samurai Cop was released with a commentary by Joe Bob Briggs, which is also fucking hilarious. So if you can find that, watch that too. That you might be able to find it on YouTube, or I know it was on some DVD released back, who knows, 20 years ago. But I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure you can find it. So
wow, that's awesome. You're listening to a lot of the same stuff. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So and it's cool that we had those guys on.
I know those guys were really fun.
Dave and Chris. From what minute were they on? Jeff, do you remember? Was it 89?
Shit, yeah, it was in the 80s.
Hey, by the way, they gave us just a random shout out on the end of the VHS Strikes Back episode on Highlander 1. It was
oh really?
Out of the blue. They're talking about Bane. They're talking about Bane impersonations, and
right.
They brought us up. They did give you the credit for doing the impersonations, and not me.
No, that was you.
Stuck in my craw for a hot second, but not really, because it was it's awesome. They're giving us a random shout out. Yeah, they're on minute 89 of Predator Minute, but
nice,
hilarious guys, and so
nice. That was on the Highlander episode. You said I'll check that out.
Yes, the Highlander episode. They've done Highlander 1 and 2, and both really solid episodes. But on a related note, it's funny because I feel like Samurai Cop has had kind of a renaissance in a lot of the movie reviews and podcast movie reviews I've listened to and watched lately. How Did This Get Made? Did an episode, I want to say, maybe last year on Samurai Cop. As well as my recommendation for this week, which is a YouTube channel called What Were You Watching? Where this guy puts a lot of production value into these movie reviews, and he's been making videos for quite a few years. It looks like he started 7 years ago, took a little bit of a break, came back 3 years ago, and this year and last year he's made a few movie reviews, not a ton, but he puts a lot of value, or like I said, he puts a lot of work into his visuals and his props and his editing, and he's just all around funny guy, great comic timing, great comic editing. I would say a good jumping off point would be his video on Masters of the Universe. His video is titled From He-Boy to He-Man, Masters of the Universe. And not spoiling anything, but the way the video begins is him explaining that during this review, he's going to be wearing this full He-Man costume, but he has to blur out every section of it, and he has to explain why he has to blur out every section of it, and that's right at the very beginning. So during the whole video review, his shtick is he has this blurred out He-Man costume for this particular review, and I think it is his longest video and his most in-depth video. But I bring up the Samurai Cop tie-in because what was it, a year ago he did a buddy cop comparison where he looked at 3 different buddy cop movies, Theodore Rex, Collision Course with Jay Leno and Pat Morita, and Samurai Cop, and he talked about all 3 of those in comparison, like in terms of buddy cop movies, how would they rate against each other. And yeah,
nice. I like how our recommends tied together. That's awesome.
Yeah, really tied together. He had all of 400. He has all of 430 subscribers, so not a ton of subscribers.
Right.
The amount of work he puts into his videos, but they're quality videos. And brother of the show, former guest Zach, turned me on to his show, and yeah, I've been watching a few of his reviews lately.
Nice.
It's called "What Were You Watching?"
Okay.
Yeah. So,
like and subscribe.
Yeah, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Just kidding. Why am I doing all this work for YouTubers? Not gonna do it. So, Eric Deutsch, esteemed guest of the show, where can people find you?
They can find me on Flash Gordon Minute and Escape from New York Minute. They're both on all the big podcatchers out there. And you can also go to growlermedia.com. That's where they both live. And if you do start listening and you enjoy it, both of them have Facebook listener fan groups that are actually still active every once in a while, even though the shows are both completed.
Nice.
Well, speaking of living in a growler, Jeff, where can people find you?
You can. So that's fantastic. You can find me in a growler. I mean, on the Twitter. Carl_Hungus314. Follow me there. My name is Jeff Glover. Find me on the Twitter.
My name is Carl. Ich bin expert.
John, where can we find all things Predator Minute?
Hey, I'm glad you asked, Jeff. And just because it's been forever since I promoted the community, and now that we have a fellow Movies by Minutes community member here in Eric Deutsch with 2 of his own Movies by Minute podcasts, Predator Minute is part of a larger community of podcasts where we break down movies by the minute. Obviously, that's our forte. That's our niche. You can find the complete list of Movies by Minutes podcasts at moviesbyminutes.com. It looks like the latest couple of episodes or the latest couple of podcasts added to the family are Space Jam Minute and Deep Blue Sea, the podcasts.
Nice.
Yeah. So check those out. It's de facto started, or the Movies by Minutes movement was de facto started by the Star Wars Minute hosts Alex Robinson and Pete the Retailer. It's been forever since I listened to Star Wars Minute, I'll be honest, or part in the Facebook group. Alex Robinson and Pete the Retailer basically started the movement. There was one podcast called Gutterballs that broke down elements of the Big Lebowski before starting to break down the Big Lebowski minute by minute. But people weren't really following that lead as much as they were following the lead of the people breaking down the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. And again, that's moviesbyminutes.com. They have movies from all different genres, all different series, retrospective type shows. Currently, it says there are 168 Movies by Minutes podcasts. So giving them their love. But you can find, of course, this podcast, Predator Minute, at Predator Minute on Twitter. You can email the show, predatorminute@gmail.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Predator Minute Listeners Palapa. Targets the center of the Palapa.
Targets the center of the Palapa.
Targets the center of the palapa.
Targets the center of the Palapa.
Targets the center of the palapa.
Eric, you want to
pass out.
Eric, you want to give that one a try?
Target the center of the palapa.
Targets the center of the palapa.
Nice.
See, that's good, man. Eric brings it every time. You have that magic drop about you set us up. It's all bullshit. Oh,
You set us up. It's all bullshit.
That's what you get when you have Eric on the show. So all you other movie by minuters out there, sign Eric up.
it's like he's worth the cost, and you won't regret it. And Eric, just want to say thank you so much for showing up back-to-back weeks on the Predator Minute. Really appreciate you having or you coming on the show and talking to us.
Well, more than happy to come on. Always have fun when I'm on your show. Loyal listener, loyal member of the Facebook group. So very happy to be on again.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
So for all things Predator Minute 93, I've been John Zabriskie.
And I am Jeff Glover.
And I am Eric Deutsch.
Nice. And until next time,
Stick around.
Stick around.
stick around.
Stick around.
I won't be back.
I'll be back.